I'm Chad Ruthermond.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And welcome to NOCLIP Pocket. Life's a puzzle, and we're the pieces. Today, we're going to be talking about Pokémon Puzzle League, which was developed by Nintendo Software Technology, published by Nintendo, and was released in 2000 on the N64. And surprise, it isn't Phasmophobia.
Yeah, we kind of forgot about that one and didn't schedule to get together to record it.
What we're going to do is call it a scheduling conflict. Whether or not that conflict was caused by our negligence is not relevant to everybody else.
Yeah, so if you're the one person that listens to every episode and would have noticed that this isn't what we said we were going to do next, this apology is for you.
I mean, there is textual evidence that this is not what we were going to do. And anyway, Pokemon Puzzle League, you might be thinking, hey, that's just Tetris Attacks. Why are you talking about this game and not just Tetris Attacks, which is the same game? And we would invite you to shut the fuck up, because we're talking about Pokemon Puzzle League.
Yeah, and in my experience, at least here in the States, I feel like people don't know what Tetris Attack is. And they are more likely to have heard of Pokemon Puzzle League. Yeah,
I mean, it probably depends on a number of factors as to whether or not you're going to be more familiar with one or the other. But to me, both of them are kind of ubiquitous. I just kind of know what they both are.
Yeah, I mean, they are just the same game.
Yeah. But the premise of it is, this is kind of this isn't, but to a lot of people, this is the grandfather of Match 3 games. Tetris Attacks is called Tetris Attacks for brand recognition reasons, because the game itself is not, it's similar in the grand scheme of things, but on the nitty gritty level, the mechanics are not really the same.
Yeah, the way I was thinking of it is it's like a Match 3 game, like a Bejeweled or a Candy Crush kind of thing, but you add in that element of Tetris where the pieces rise up the screen.
Right.
So there's a time limit, and you can match way more than 3 things.
Well, I think that's true in those games.
True,
as well.
Yeah, but that's how I would describe it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, depending on how much experience you have with Match 3, this may or may not become obvious over the course of the thing, but I hate Match 3 games. It's just kind of in my system to not enjoy them. And this game isn't really exempt from that. The core mechanics of this game are not really that interesting to me, and I don't click with them necessarily. But this was one of those games, when we were we got to put something out eventually. We can't just continually push episodes until we get people together to actually do the thing. This came up, and I was yeah, we can do that one, because it's just a game that I played a bunch when I was a kid. It was just one of those games, and a lot of the reason why is because of the Pokemon branding on it.
Yep. I think I do kind of generally like Match 3 games. I'm one of those basic bitches, you know. It just kind of just does it for me for whatever reason. But this is the only one I've ever gotten super into, and I also think it's because of the Pokemon license that's just kind of airbrushed over it. It's crazy how effective that was on me as a kid. Because, I wouldn't, if this had, was just Tetris Attack or Paddle Depon or whatever it's called in Japan, I would have played it a couple of hours and probably never touched it again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because it isn't that the game is bad. It's not this style of game isn't good. The evidence by how popular some of them end up being. You mentioned Bejeweled and Candy Crush, which are probably the two most successful examples, but probably largely because of the platform. Both of them were available, Bejeweled was available on smartphones or on cell phones prior to the smart revolution.
Yeah, I associate it with junior high computer class, people playing it. So I always thought it was one of those games that just came pre-installed on computers.
But it is actually a proprietary PopCap
Yeah.
sort of thing. So there is there's a history of these games being popular among people outside of like the normal video game space. It's just something that's simple to pick up and play, and it has the same sort of appeal as a crossword puzzle or like a word find, where it is kind of a simple to understand, difficult to master type of like brain teaser type gameplay. But this one's got Pokemon in it. The thing that amuses me the most about the Pokemon overlay on this game is how irrelevant it is, and how many things are in the game that make it feel like maybe it could have been relevant and they just chose to not make it so.
Yeah, it's just flavor in this case. Yeah, because one of the most obvious things that stand out is that there's no like type advantages. When you do the story mode or the campaign mode, whatever you want to call it, you have 3 Pokemon to choose from, and so does the opponent. And like choosing, it does not matter at all,
right,
which Pokemon you choose. So yeah, it seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, just to have like another layer of stuff. I think there are a lot of potential things that could have gone on with that, but like type advantage specifically would have been well, maybe the easiest choice, also the worst one, because it would just end up being a binary, like which thing do you choose against each thing.
Well,
like there would just be a correct answer.
I don't know about that, because
I mean, sell me on it, but
I think that depending on how you balanced it, like with the type advantage you could do, I think could be that if you have a type advantage against the other person, that person, like the blocks are more resilient that you drop on them, and they're harder for them to break down. I think would work, and I think it could be like a baked-in difficulty selection, like which if you pick a Pokemon with a type advantage, it's like hard mode, or with a disadvantage, it's like hard, and with advantage is easy. Kind of a thing is how I was imagining it.
Yeah, and I mean that tracks. My problem is that like there would be no. They would have to, one, remove the existing difficulty level in order to make it even relevant.
That's what I'm proposing.
Yeah. And then second would just... It would have to tell you, essentially, like... I feel like a lot of the things that this game does, which I'll get into a bit, as far as, like, how it is structured and how the difficulties work, would cease to function entirely if that was your difficulty selection. And... I don't know. Like, I think the knobs are not in the right place for it. Like, you would have to be like... Because if you make it a mechanical difference where, like, if you drop a fire-type block, they have to clear 2 things using their grass-type Pokemon in order to break it, then suddenly you're going like, well, that is in itself a different difficulty than the speed of the blocks,
right,
which is already what the difficulty sort of governs. In addition to the AI thing, so you'd have to change how that all works.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I don't like how it is implemented now. I feel like it's kind of pointless.
Yeah,
but they had to do something in order to work the Pokemon in. Because right now all it does is change what pictures in the background and what noises it makes when you send things to the other opponent's side.
Yeah, so it does feel like shallow. But you bring up the sound effects, and I actually really like the implementation. Like, they get annoying hearing them over and over again if you play for a while. But I like... They're really effective audio cues. And that you know exactly what's coming your way. If you hear the Pokemon keep saying its name, you're like, oh, fuck, here comes a giant block to land on me. Like, it lets you know at least a little bit what the other player is doing, or the AI is doing, without having to look at it at their board. And I think it's also especially fun in multiplayer, because you know that the other person knows what's coming before it hits them, which can be funny. Yeah,
watching as a third party, which I don't think until literally 1 hour ago I've ever done in my entire life. It is interesting to me, one, how successful they were at making the computer opponents look like real people when they're playing. Like there's this hesitation and sort of like decision making that you can sort of sense going on. Like it is artificial, but it is like done in a way that makes it seem real, which I thought was actually impressive. And then also just the utter wasted effort that represents, because you do not look at the other. Like you could play this game with half of the screen covered up, and it would not matter at all.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it was just easier to do it that way somehow. Like, I'd have no idea how you'd program an AI like that. But, it's funny, because sometimes though, when you look at it, it's just like obviously handicapped. It's just kind of like lazily moving the cursor around and like not doing anything.
Right.
So yeah, if you pay close attention to the AI, you're like, wait a minute. Which can be, yeah, I also don't think I had really ever watched someone else play until today. I noticed similar things.
Yeah, it's hard to take notice of what's going on the other side of the screen because there is so much happening at once. I mean, I guess depending, there are certain times, like when you have downtime, where you have like you've just cleared everything and you're waiting for more stuff to come up, and like the rational thing to do would be to speed it up and move it, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can kind of sit,
right?
Which is like, I don't know, I have not played enough of these games in order to know what the actual optimal strategy is if you just want to continuously make as much chaos as possible for the other person.
Yeah, you don't want to like wait on it. You want to like bring more blocks up so you can drop more stuff on the
right
other, because that's just, if you're taking downtime, that's more time for them to clear what's already piled on top of them. Right.
So that would be the only time though that I think that you would have like a reasonable amount of time to look and see what the opponent is doing.
Right.
Otherwise you're just sort of staring at your own board without any difference. So
it's a very easy to pick up and difficult to master kind of game. And if you go into like some of like the little modes that they have, they like try to teach you the more advanced techniques. And I remember always doing it as a kid and it seeming like stupid hard to be able to do any of the stuff they like try to teach you to do, and like some of the stuff that the AI does when you play against it on the higher difficulties, and they're like stringing all these like huge combos together, and it's like, how the hell are they even like, how can you keep all these moving parts in your head? And so I wanted to compare it to like The World Ends With You a little bit. It's not a great comparison because you're not like splitting your attention between two screens, but it feels like it's on that level of like, are people actually able to like execute this kind of stuff? Like I've never looked up any videos of like high level Pokemon Puzzle League play, but I'm sure it's ridiculous.
Well, yeah.
And it seems so hard to like all these setups that are possible.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to every question that begins, are there people who can?
Yeah.
Is yes, like always. So there are people out there who are so good at Tetris Attack style games that like none of this discussion even means anything to them. And it's one of those things where when you watch somebody play, you see the way that you would play it, and then every deviation is just like a stab in the heart to you, where you're just like, this doesn't make sense. Why didn't you go for this? Like no matter how it turns out, it just feels wrong. And those people would feel like they were watching the AI, I'm sure. Like when they see somebody who is not as skilled as them play.
I wonder how the complexity would land with like the average person, I guess.
Yeah. Like to me, the biggest hurdle in this game that I never got used to, even like as far as I know as a kid, I don't really remember. I haven't played this game probably since 2001, and then until today. And it's like, the thing is, the difficulty for me comes from the length of time between when you see something incoming and when you're actually able to interact with it. Because there will be times, there are two different stop effects in the game. There's the one where you do a thing that it counts as basically anything other than match 3. If you match 4 or greater, or if you do a combo, it'll stop the flow of the blocks, but you can still move shit around. And then there's the pause that happens when you clear things where you can't move things. Like, it just, like, it takes a second and, like, renders everything popping in, and you aren't able to move stuff around. And the recognizing when each thing was happening, especially when both things were, like, occurring simultaneously, made it really hard for me to, like, be able to plan ahead for stuff. And I just had to, like, throw shit around. Like, I just mashed the A button a lot, waiting for it to see if, like, it would actually swap.
Yeah, like, for me, that it's that kind of game. Like, it's not something you plan ahead for. It's kind of like it's testing, like, your reflexes of, like, what can you do with what's right in front of your face right now, sort of a thing. I know you're a plan ahead kind of guy, so doesn't surprise me that that doesn't, like, click with you, as you said at the beginning. Yeah, like, for me, this game is a lot like WarioWare or Katamari are for you, where it's just like, I played this so much as a kid that it just, everything feels second nature about it. It's like, of course it works this and that way. Like, it's like burned into my my DNA.
Right, you've the muscle memory for it. I don't know. Yeah, I think the problem that I have is that the game rewards combos more than they do, like, large I don't know if they call them chains, and that makes me want to go for them as, like, the optimal strategy, and not being able to, like, flip things the way that I want, or just, like, have the block scroll in a pixel earlier than you think they are, and just, like, uselessly clear out 3 blocks that you didn't want gone,
right,
is, like, very frustrating to me. And I don't know. I don't enjoy that. Yeah,
there's so many pieces on the board, and it is hard to keep it all, like, in mind. Or it's what kind of. It's, I don't want to say impossible, but
I was going to option the term impossible.
I'm sure there are people that can do it, though, as we were just saying, like the crazy Tetris Attack people that I know have to exist. But yeah, no, I can sympathize with that. Where it gets into that sort of territory for me is with the 3D versions. So, like, I think the part of this that kept me coming back to it when I was younger is the Team Rocket mode. It's like a challenge mode where you just had to keep doing progressively harder puzzles or boards, whatever you want to call them. And it gets all the way up into, like, 3D versions, and I remember it going on forever and ever. Like, there were, like, a bajillion rounds, and I never ever beat them all. I don't remember what round I got to. I could have checked and forgot to, but
we had many legacy save files.
Yeah, but they get to a point where they just go so fast, and, like, you just, like, want to tear your hair out and be like, how does anybody do this?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just, like, especially the 3D ones, you get the amount of, like, workable space you have is smaller because it's wrapped around a cone, and you had to turn it to be able to see everything you have, which makes it extra difficult.
Yeah, the 3D ones, I want to talk about, because this is such. This game exemplifies a lot of the things that the Pokemon franchise is used to do, and also even in the main sort of series of games, you can see the echoes here, where this is a game that Nintendo could have programmed in a weekend for $5, and in order to, but they couldn't just market it as, we made a Tetris Attacks game, so they put the Pokemon branding on it. This is why we have things like Pokemon fucking Mahjong and shit,
right,
where they just put a skin over it. It's basically like Monopoly, where they just sort of put a new franchise on it to sell it to more people. And then also they take something that is old and tired, and they put a really unnecessary weird spin on it that doesn't really change anything. But I think that the 3D mode is I will fucking mark this down in the annals of history. 3D Pokemon Puzzle League is a better variation on the core mechanics than Gigantamax ever was. Because yes, it is more complicated, and yes, it is a lot harder. Like, I agree with all of that, but I really like the theoretical increase in complexity that it adds, even though what it really is just a very wide board.
Yeah. Now, I like it too. Like, I didn't want to give the impression that I don't. It's just the difficulty curve becomes much steeper with it. Like, it is a lot harder.
I mean, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but no, I like it too, and I think the challenge of it is what I think captivates me about it, or like, because like if I ever revisit this game, that's one of the things I want to go for. I'm like, how far can I get in the Team Rocket mode? How many of those 3D puzzles can I get?
Right.
Like, can I beat it this time? I haven't yet.
Yeah, I got up to the 3D puzzles in the Rocket mode today, but it wasn't like Rocket mode today also is
Rocket mode today, the spa,
yeah.
I think is what it is.
No, Rocket mode today, I think it's a news program.
I was just saying, that's just the name of the spa.
Okay, yeah. But they, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's really interesting because when you're playing in 2D mode, aka short mode, you have to keep in mind the patterns. Like, this is largely a pattern matching game where you see like clumps of things and you have to recognize like when that works.
Yeah.
But then in 3D mode, you have to, because it's a transparent cylinder, so you can see to the other side, and so you need to know when you've spent too much time in one place so that you can run over and kill any like big towers that are forming.
Right.
And that's really interesting. I think that that's a good evolution of the game in a way that like 3D chess never really was able to do.
Yeah, like the way I think like when you really get in the groove of it, like it's about like the 3D versions. It's about like looking at the clumps, as you say, the pattern recognition, and being able to pick them out like immediately, do a few, and then like be constantly rotating the cylinder. Yeah, which is like when you get like, and I think the Rocket mode is actually like a really great gradual, smooth difficulty curve, and like if you come back to the game, I recommend just doing that because it starts out like dirt easy, and gets super hard. So it really eases you up to it, and once you like, and you can get into that flow, or you're like meeting the curve, like it's super satisfying.
Yeah, and like the 3D ones are really where the spike is, if there is one, because it's like those are the ones where the complexity changes, so you have to get used to a new thing. But then once you do, it continues to increase in difficulty like ever so slowly, in a way that I think works really well. If your focus is on having a gradual, consistent curve, the Rocket mode is absolutely really good. Like, it's super precise with how it works with that. They just have a lot of numbers they can increase.
Yeah, you really feel it getting harder in that mode, but in the way that like the campaign mode doesn't. Like it can feel really random, where you'll which almost makes me think it has adaptive difficulty. Because there will be, like, you'll fight somebody, like, 3 times in a row and get stomped, and then you'll try it a 4th time, and you'll win in, like, 20 seconds because, like, the AI went to the bathroom or something, and it just...
Yeah.
It just seems like it happens sometimes. It's really weird. And
it's honestly, like, to me anyway, is like a little bit discouraging when you win after like several fights in a row, and you look at the other and it just looks like they just didn't bother.
Oh yeah, it feels like a gimme.
Yeah.
And it might be because like the game, I assume, is targeted at children.
True. Yeah, and the game. So I wanted to go into this, and I feel like this is as good a place as any to do it. When you finish the game on any given difficulty, up until, I mean, I don't know, does Very Hard have its own like clear message? I don't really know.
I know I've actually never beaten it on Very Hard, which is something I'd never really realized or thought about. Like, I thought I'd beaten the game on the hardest difficulty, but apparently I haven't. And I know after you beat Gary, you fight Mewtwo. He's actually the puzzle champion that they mention. And I think you do he has like a 3D
of course
battle against him. And I don't know what happens when you beat him. But it's probably nothing too crazy.
Oh yeah, it's not like it's worth it.
No,
really.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is more like if you look at the way that the difficulty is structured, they chop levels off the end of each one in order to, like, it's just like a shorter. It's basically if you've played like a 2D fighting game from the 90s, the fucking arcade towers, it's like easy mode is like 6 opponents and then medium is 8. It's the same concept.
Yeah, I think they remove one for each difficulty.
But what happens is you get to the end of it, and it's like, here's your unsatisfying victory that seems out of nowhere and we didn't warn you about. Try playing on the next difficulty level.
Yeah, it's like they didn't account for it. Like, there isn't, like, some changed dialogue. Like, because who's the last person on normal difficulty? It was just like Bruno.
Bruno, and then it just ends.
Lorelai isn't like, oh, like your final battle will be next, or they don't add in any text like that. It just abruptly ends.
Yeah, it's especially if you're like an enfranchised Pokemon player, which if you're 29, you are.
Yeah,
you know that the elite has a number that comes after it, and that number is goddamn 4. And they're just like, yeah, Richie, who isn't on the Elite Four, but the next 2 are, and Lorelai, okay, that's 2. Bruno, who's the 4th one? Game over.
Yeah. I like the inclusion of Richie just because I watched the anime and I know what that is. My animal brain there, it's just like I remember. But it is weird when you think about it. Like, why are Lorelai and Bruno there, but like Agatha and Blaine? No.
Yes.
Why am I blanking? Lance. Jesus. And Lance aren't. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird when you stop and think about it.
And why does Gary come back at the end?
Well, like, to be the champion or whatever. But
sure.
he isn't in the context of this. But I think that we're splitting hairs at this point.
Look, all I want is consistency in my Puzzle League championship run. Yeah. It's very strange, and I feel like far be it from me to criticize the narrative of Pokemon Puzzle League on the Nintendo 64.
But here it comes.
Well, here it was. All of this is me complaining that I didn't know when the game was going to end because it did not grip me with its narrative. It's super weird. Like, as far as I know, all of the cutscenes that exist in this game may as well have just been re-edited shots from the show.
They could be. I don't think that they are. Like, I think they actually produced them for the show. But it's like a grand total of like 3 minutes of material.
That's even
probably too high.
Yeah, it depends. I guess like maybe pure time, but like animation scenes. Like there's that part where Professor Oak is just on a television.
Right. But yeah, I still like that in the inclusion of that though, and that they got all the voice actors. Like, it really makes it feel like a Pokemon game and not just like a reskinned, unrelated puzzle game.
And we've talked about Pokemon Snap. Like, I said some maybe uncharitable things about Pokemon, the franchise, being just like sort of slapped over shit it didn't need to be on. But like, we still like the games. It works on us, even if it is like maybe a little bit malicious. Yeah. But they put in the effort to make it like an actual Pokemon themed game, even if it doesn't like live up to, I don't know. I don't even know if I had expectations for this. I just wanted Ash to fucking match some blocks up. Damn.
But yeah, this game is incredibly nostalgic to me. Not just because I played it as a kid, but yeah, just because it feels like the Pokemon anime. And another way that it really like brings that home for me is that it uses the music from the TV show. There is a CD that they put out called To Be a Master.
Numeral 2, letter B.
Yeah, A Master. And it had like the soundtrack to the show, like all the music from it. And they've done like MIDI versions of the songs. And I just fucking love it.
Yeah. I'm going to have an argument that has no substance to it because I fucking hate it. But it is like purely a matter of opinion, I guess. It just feels very like I'm 100% that it had to have been like a technical limitation. They couldn't just have
the actual music.
Yeah, the full lossless audio or whatever they would need on the N64 cartridge without like making a bunch of other concessions.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense that I'm not against it, but I do hate hearing it. Like the MIDI music to me harks back to this era of just like cheap, like very early internet content, and like just there is a nostalgic element to it, and I don't think that is worthless. I just like don't enjoy listening to it really. And I listen to shit. Like I listen to music that doesn't even sound like it was recorded in a professional studio.
Yeah, I also don't know how to have any kind of a substantive debate about this, because like I fucking love it and probably will find the soundtrack on YouTube and add it to my YouTube playlist and just listen to it while I work. So
I will say there are definitely some cases though where the MIDI version of some of these songs are definitely better than the original versions because they don't have bad lyrics.
Exactly, yeah. But like some of those songs though do kind of slap.
Yeah.
But yeah, the words are so dumb.
Yeah, well, I mean that's traditional Pokemon.
Sure, yeah. Media produced for kids in the 90s. Yeah,
it was a very weird time because I feel like we've talked about this in regard to a bunch of stuff before, where things were made for video games and they were like a video game style and they weren't compared to things that of the same type, whether that be music or writing or art or anything that we would talk about outside of the world of video games. It was a separate thing. And now in 2021 they aren't. Like people will listen to a soundtrack for a video game on shuffle in between songs by The Killers and shit. Like it just is a thing now that people make music that is good music, regular full stop pop music for video games, and they didn't before.
Right.
And so there's definitely an element of that to it, where this music is music that was made for the Pokemon anime and was marketed for kids, and they just went like, fuck it, I'm on the road to Viridian City. And you're like, hell yeah, they said Viridian City. I know where that is.
Yeah.
And like now I just kind of like look back and go like, they sure were on the road to Viridian City. There's no metaphor. They met their friends along the way. That is what happened.
Come on, let's play.
I'm coming around. I love it now.
It's one of those things, like it feels like it hits that like bad movie appeal where it's like it's so earnest, like they're trying so hard to like make something like cool for kids, and it's just like looking, I mean it worked as a kid. I liked that CD
I had
a
the
lot.
CD, yeah.
But yeah, looking back on it now, it's like, oh god, like you feel embarrassed. Like I think about like, how would you like to be the guy that sang that song?
The guy who did the poke rap?
Yeah, it's like you go like on a date with a girl and you're just like lamenting, like if it goes well, like the time that you're gonna have to show it to her.
I mean, we may have come full circle on it at this point, like,
or maybe he's proud of it.
Yeah,
I would hope that's the case.
Like, imagine
I'd be embarrassed though.
To anyone who owns a physical copy of To Be a Master, which I have to enunciate that way, it just doesn't work.
To Be a Master, yeah.
Imagine that you have a physical copy of that. Do you put it on a shelf? Because when somebody comes over, they go, oh my god, like, I remember that from when I was a kid. And it's cool for a minute. It's a talking point. It's an icebreaker.
Yes.
Or do you hide it under your bed? Or throw it away? Because, like, I don't think it's embarrassing anymore because it has made the rounds. But if you got it when you were 13 and then were 16, you would put that shit somewhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, there's no reason. Yeah, put that shit on the shelf because, it's a thing you liked when you were 9.
Right. I can set this shit up next to $1 Modoc.
Yeah, it's something that you liked when you were 9 and you totally don't like anymore. What are you talking about?
Wink. We've breached my full list of things to talk about.
Me too.
All right, perfect. So, do we have cylindrical thoughts?
My cylindrical thoughts are this is a big nostalgia one for me. Big nostalgia pick that we do on especially Pocket, it seems, every once in a while.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's one of those ones I played enough as a kid that I didn't come back to it. I'm like, oh, I'm so surprised at what I found. No, it's exactly how I remember it. I probably put way too much time into this, and it's weird because it isn't the kind of game I usually get like super engaged by. And I really do, like, thinking back, feel like it's just the Pokemon branding that did it. So yeah, it's like a weird case for me, but like I really enjoy this game. And while we have the N64 hooked up, I'll probably play a bit more of it. See if I can beat the Team Rocket mode and beat it on very hard. I can put the game away and never touch it again. But I know that won't be the case.
You can put the game in that big pile you have that says games I have conquered.
Yeah, it's about like every 8 or so years I'll get the itch for some Pokemon Puzzle League. Mm. But yeah, this is just a rose-colored one for me, so I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So yeah, fully agree on the nostalgia thing. This is a game that I have. The last time I played this game, my ass was on some low pile basement carpet at my mom's house, and it's big to come back to these things because it does really it gives you a real shot in the arm of oh fuck, this is exactly how I remembered it, because this game is exactly what it says on the tin. It is the Pokemon version of a match 3 puzzle game, and I don't know, I said a bunch of shit on this, and it is a Pokemon game that absolutely does not need to be a Pokemon game, but also totally needs to be a Pokemon game in order for people to play it. And I don't think it's bad, and I don't dislike it. It's an enjoyable game for what it is. It's just what it is very shallow. If you're already very good at Tetris Attacks, this won't do anything to switch it up. Maybe the 3D mode. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm really interested in looking up, very high level 3D mode play. But I don't know. It's an interesting time capsule, and one of the games, and we're going to be talking eventually on the main podcast about another one of these. It's one of those games that, yeah, you come back to and you go I'm really glad that we do this podcast sometimes, because it allows me to spend the afternoon playing Pokemon Puzzle League.
Yeah.
And just really enjoying the memories of fucking Grape Popsicles and hugs.
And the road to Viridian City.
The road to Viridian City. Thank you for listening to NOCLIP Pocket this week.
What are we hopefully talking about next time?
Next time, barring any other hostly misdeeds, we will be talking about Phasmophobia to go along with our main episode on
Ring Fit Adventure.
This really fucks up.
I mean, I feel like we're the only ones who have a concept of the idea that we try to theme the Pocket episodes to go along with the main ones if we can.
Yeah, if we normally, because we only do it when it seems like a convenient thing.
When we think about it far enough in advance.
And nobody will ever recognize it because there isn't actually a pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, and we never mention it on the cast, so.
But anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about next time. If you want to hear us talk about it for 3 more seconds, listen to our entire last episode of Pocket on Downwell? Was there one in between? I've forgotten. A short hike.
Yeah, it was a short hike.
Yes, listen to the short hike episode. Until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at NOCLIPPodcast.com. There you can find links to our YouTube, our Discord, iTunes, Google Play. You can find all of our old episodes there, including episodes on Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 2.
And Harvest Moon,
Harvest
Game Boy
Moon.
Color.
As well as, puzzle games. Monument Valley.
Yeah.
That is one. You go way back and listen to Catherine and hear Andy say, it was like watching a baby play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, smash that like button.
Yeah, that's super funny to look back on, but was very uncomfortable to be in the room. Like how much Catherine frustrated you.
Mm-hmm. It was accurate at the time. It still would be accurate if I played it again, but I will not. Goodbye.
Goodbye. No Catherine full body for Chad.
No. I would take Catherine half body, please.